action, even elicited, some level of argument whether the numbers were too big or whether the numbers were too small. But at this moment, we're not even going to be getting up to 25%, when we look at the percentage of the number of women to be increased in parliament. So we're saying it is not yet a whole, it's not a perfect number, but it is a walk into the room. It is a walk to say we need more voices at the moment, because without those voices, Francisca, it's a danger for us. At the moment, Nigeria ranks highest in maternal mortality. And if you look at that number, you look at the representation of women at the community level, to be able to advocate for such kinds of conversation, it is missing. We're not saying give women chairs or give women seats because they are women alone. We're saying look at the detriment and the absence of women's voices on the policy-making table. It is enough to cost us more as a government than to exclude women. And the reason for this argument is that we've often heard people say, oh, it will increase the cost of governance, or it will, it will beyond the level of budgeting and expenditure for the parliament. But imagine the expenditure being done now by excluding women. Imagine the expenditure being done now by leaving pro-women policies that can activate not just development at the community level, but also an inclusive economy. Because when you think of burden bearers, Francisca, you think of women as active economic participators, they are at the community level. So how do you put them on that table without engineering perhaps a roadmap to be able to activate inclusion? And that's what the Reserve Seats for Women's Bill is trying to do. I am the Southeast, zonal coordinator for the Reserve Seats campaign advocacy, and I can tell you that during the public hearing, the women were enthusiastic. There's a lot of excitement. There's also a lot of curiosity. How does this affect me as a woman? What can I bring to the table if this bill comes to pass? And it just made sense why it is so important to have women's voices echoing those kind of curiosities in lawmaking. It also shows that when you look at the aggregate of the Southeast, for instance, we're about 20 million people in population. 2 states out of the whole region does not have a single woman in the State Assembly, Imo State and Abia State. We are hoping that this corrective measure will be able to see women at those levels, because the population currency of the Southeast alone has about 11% higher than the North population. So women are higher in number, women are higher as voters. Why do you then think that it is not a tragedy to leave them out of the numbers?
Okay. Now let's look at women themselves. We've had several conversations around the difficulties, the challenges that keep women away from participating in politics. Now, creating special seats for women, how is it going to address challenges like midnight meetings, lack of adequate financing? How is it going to make it easier for women who want to participate in politics but have been kept out?
I think that we're looking at the context rather than the context, and I think that's what we need to look at first.
Okay.
First of